Hey guys, Scott Fishman here with a great guest. Today we have the Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling Champion, Lee Moriarty. Everyone knows him from Ring of Honor and AEW, of course, All Elite Wrestling. But what's coming up in the future now is a dream realized for him. He's actually going to have an exhibit at during the Art Miami week, which is coming up, Miami Art Week, which is coming up, I believe December 1st it starts, but I'm sure Lee can talk about where we can see his work. So of course, it's a tribute to sports, paintings capturing the duality of wrestling. We know them in masks and things like that, but they're doing some really interesting things in a lot of his work. It's pretty incredible. So Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah. So I think on social media, you talked about how 2 years ago you kind of set a goal for yourself that you wanted to have an exhibit, and then you're seeing this now realized in just a little bit. So talk about just what this means to you.
Yeah, a few years ago, I got back into painting after not doing it for years since high school. And I just did it as a way for me to express myself outside of the wrestling ring. I've been an artist longer than I've been a wrestler. So I decided to set a goal like I do every year. And one of the goals was to have an art exhibition. I began painting, and I didn't have in mind what the series was going to be at first. But the more I painted, it just naturally came out, and it became about professional wrestling's life outside the ring. And I think a lot of people associate professional wrestling with just violence and combat, and people don't realize the serene, peaceful life that a lot of us live, especially me. I'm a person that's very closed in, and I just keep calm, relaxed. I like walking my dog, going out into the nature world, painting, all things, playing tennis, which is one of the paintings. So this was a big opportunity that came to me by Adam Abdallah to have an exhibition at NADA in Miami, which is the New Art Dealers Alliance, from December 3rd to the 7th. My art will be on display for the first time. No one's ever seen my art outside of photos and things. So to be able to see these things in person is a really big deal for me, and I'm excited about that.
I was gonna say my favorite is the dog walking one. I think that one was a really great. So, these are things that you've. What? Tell me about the decision for the mask. I know, lucha libre, Mexican tradition. It's very visual and creative in that sense. But is there kind of a deeper meaning behind that?
Yeah, there's a couple. So originally, when I was painting luchadors, one of my favorite aesthetics in professional wrestling is luchadors with suits and tuxedos. Back in the day, El Santo, Blue Demon, all these guys would have these really nice suits combined with the mask, which I feel like is such a unique aesthetic to professional wrestling that you won't see anywhere else. So I wanted to capture that in my artwork. But then the more I went on, I wanted to paint things outside of just luchadors and suits, which became playing tennis, walking the dog, grilling, barbecuing, things like that. And I decided to keep the lucha libre aesthetic, the wrestlers in the mask, because that is the most universally recognized imagery of professional wrestling. Even if you don't watch pro wrestling, you see a mask, you know this guy's a pro wrestler.
Yeah. Talk about how, what wrestling is. I mean, as far as like not wrestling, what painting and art has done for you as an outlet as you're kind of trying to build your wrestling career. You're always on the road. Does it help kind of pass the time when you're like in airports or, in a hotel room? Do you work on your art while you're on the road also?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm waiting to fly somewhere, when I'm in a hotel before a show, I get on my tablet, I draw, I come up with ideas, thumbnail sketches, and things like that, so that when I get back home and I have that free time, I can get back to painting. I've also used my tablet for graphic design. I've designed all of my shirts. I've designed the logo you'll see on my Tron sometimes, the tiger. That is a design I did before I even signed with AEW Ring of Honor. So I'm always drawing, I'm always painting. I have a camera, I've done photography, I've made my own scenes. I just like expressing myself creatively and building a world around the art and the visions that I have in my head and being able to express them outwardly.
Hmm. How come? What kind of support have you felt from the locker room? Are going to see some of the talent there kind of supporting you, or what's kind of the feedback you've gotten? Are they big critics of yours? Is there anyone that's a big critic backstage of your work and like with the artistic eye?
I've had nothing but support from AEW, Ring of Honor, the locker room, everybody. I think it's not surprising because I knew that's how it was when I first came here. They're very supportive of outside ventures that help the person grow as individuals and as brands. But I've had nothing but from support from the first day I posted a painting. Just so many people coming up to the locker room telling me how cool this is that I can do this. People didn't know I had this talent or this skill because, again, I'm a very closed in person. I keep to myself. So unless you see me posting on social media, people don't know these things about me. But I've had nothing but support. AEW has been recording me doing feature pieces that may come out in the near future about the art. They've just done so much, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Have you gotten wrestlers commissioned you for any pieces yet?
I've had a few people ask me, yeah, and I'll get to that. But the priority right now was to having these pieces set for NADA Miami because I don't like to rush through my work. So a lot of my paintings, they take like a month and a half to get done, especially because I'm on the road. The past month, I was on the road for both Dynamite and Collision. So I
Mm.
was maybe home one full day a week. And most other days were either show days or they were travel days. So it was just getting to painting when I could, but not rushing through it. So I didn't have time to do commissions, but I had people asking, and those will come in the future.
And are people going to be able to purchase the art that we're going to be seeing on display?
Yeah, this art will be on sale. They've gone out to some buyers recently. I won't say too much because I like the mystery and excitement of things like that. But
That's
these
got to
will,
mean a lot to you that people are interested in buying it, though. That's
yeah. When I started painting, it was never the intention just to sell. It was just for fun, something that I enjoyed doing. It was an outlet for pro wrestling, like we talked about earlier. It's something wrestling helps me as an outlet for my art. Art helps me as an outlet for my wrestling. They balance each other out. So it's really cool to find out that people wanted to buy these things from me. But it's also a thing like there's a piece of me in all of these projects, all of these paintings and stuff. So I'm excited, but a little heartbroken that these things might not be in my home anymore. Hard to part.
yeah. Talk about just like growing up. You said you were artist first before you were a wrestling fan, and just how you kind of developed your talent.
Yeah, when I was growing up, for as long as I can remember, I'd be drawing. My mom and dad would encourage it all the time. As I got older, I started to really put an effort into learning and getting better at drawing. And I would do that by drawing the characters off of old Yu-Gi-Oh cards and Pokemon cards. My dad would give me these VHS Dragon Ball Z tapes. I would draw the characters off of there. I would get Game Informer magazines and draw out of those. So all these things, I would just keep practicing, keep trying to get better at that. High school, I did an art show. I got a certificate from the government for like how well one of my house drawings was. I don't have the house drawing anymore, but I remember that. I went to community college for graphic design a little bit, but most of what I'm doing is self-taught. And it's just because I have this brain that wants me to continue to learn, to continue to grow, to continue to improve on
Mhm.
every aspect. That's both with art and professional wrestling.
Yeah, amazing. And of course, you are wrestling for Ring of Honor as well as All Elite Wrestling. One thing that I'm wanting to get your thoughts on, though, when it comes to that is, Ring of Honor is its separate brand, but we don't see like we see a lot of crossover with AEW. Is it something that you kind of want to see AEW kind of grow in itself? Sorry, Ring of Honor grow within itself as far as like a separate its own on its own brand, or do you like the kind of jumping around sort of thing aspect? I know there was a lot of talk about potential Ring of Honor having its own show, network interests, so that might be coming down the line. But what's your kind of opinion on things?
I think crossover is good because that's what makes professional wrestling exciting. Is when there's this unique crossover. But I think there's a balance to having not every time. Like there is a separate identity to Ring of Honor, a separate identity to AEW. AEW is where the best wrestle. I think Ring of Honor is where the best start. So these places allow us to develop and we cross over into there. Shane Taylor is on both Ring of Honor and AEW pretty consistently. I've been seeing consistently. So I think it's important to have separate identity, but the crossover is also good. Like you see CMLL, you see New Japan come over, and it makes exciting matchups.
Hmm. What how is it working with Shane? I mean, I've spoken he has such an incredible, inspiring story of how he came up. What have you kind of taken from him as a veteran in the locker room there?
I think it's just his hard work and work ethic. Shane Taylor is someone who I knew of since I started watching independent wrestling locally. My first, it was either my first or my second indie wrestling show I went to when I was in college that allowed me to find my wrestling school. Shane Taylor was on, and I think he was actually wrestling the guy who became my trainer, Brandon Kay. So I knew who he was. I knew about his story and his work ethic, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Hmm. What do you make of the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley, MVP, Shelton Benjamin? They've done so much within this industry. Now they're in All Elite Wrestling. There's all this talk about, representation, how important it is. Tony Khan has talked about it. It's been a hot topic. What does it mean for you to kind of see them come into the fold and what we're seeing right now with AEW?
I think they're three of the most valuable talents in the world. I think they have the total package, the presentation, athleticism, the confidence, and all these things. And those inspire me to go out and do what I'm doing with both professional wrestling and my art. Is to not settle and not just be comfortable in the spot I'm in, but continue to grow as a business and a brand.
How do you think you've grown as a performer? Because, with the TV time that you're getting, you're kind of being able to develop talent, character, promos, things like that. What does that kind of feel like? I think with Ring of Honor, it gives you the opportunity to kind of get a little bit more reps in too. So kind of how you feel like you've evolved from when you started to now.
I think when you get to the national level, it's pretty much starting over from the independent. So you're relearning professional wrestling in a way. And I've only been there for 3 years, but in those 3 years, I've learned a lifetime of information, and there's still a lifetime more for me to gain. And I've gotten more comfortable with promos. I've gotten more comfortable in the ring in front of cameras. I've gotten bigger. When I signed with AEW, I was maybe 175. I'm touching 200 pounds now because I continue to grow and improve. And I take that same mindset and put it into my art. And then that comes back, the work ethic that I have in my art, I bring back to professional wrestling.
Hmm. Is there anyone specifically who've kind of worked with you that's been that go-to person? That's,
Um, that's one of the things I'm very fortunate with in being AEW is that there's not really a single person, but there's everybody that's willing to help. I get information from different points and periods. Like there was a period I was learning from John Moxley for a while. There's a period I was learning from Claudio when we were doing the Texas shows. For like 3 straight weeks, I was in the ring competing against him. I would get advice from him. Orange Cassidy, someone I would go to a lot. Serpentico, John Cruz, those guys I get to learn from a lot. There's just so many people that I'm very fortunate. I've trained with Malachi Black at his school at one point. I'm very grateful, and I can't express how much I appreciate all that. Even Nigel McGuinness, him coming back to the ring, I was in the ring training with him.
wow.
Yeah, I can't express how appreciative I am that these people are willing to give me the time to learn from them.
And being the Pure Wrestling champion, I mean, that's such a unique environment to compete in. How do you kind of approach that to your typical match and kind of when it comes to like building a match out? I think there's more challenge in what you're doing with that sort of thing. It's, because it breaks down to the core of pro wrestling, what it is.
Yeah, pure wrestling. I say pro wrestling is all chess. Pure wrestling is 3D chess. It's like another level because there's limitations, but these limitations aren't bad things. These limitations help you unlock the next level of your style. You can't rely on rope breaks. You can't rely on a punch and things like that. So it forces you to think harder and to think deeper. And that's really what I appreciate about pure wrestling the most is the ability to think on the fly. And that's what I do with my art too. My art, I don't really go in with a full game plan because there's so many factors that change. Like I'm mixing a color with acrylic paints, and sometimes they dry differently. So I have to repaint this, go over it a different way. So when I get into that ring, and especially in a pure match, I can have a game plan, but there's different factors. The ropes might not be the same tension that they are the week before. You know, maybe it's a little slippery from the match before. There's all these different factors that I have to factor into in my style, Tiger style, and that allows me to free form and change what I need to do in pure wrestling matches.
We have Final Battle coming up, a legendary venue in the Hammerstein Ballroom. What do you make of that? What does that mean to you, the potential of performing on such a historic, in a historic venue?
That means a lot to me. The potential to compete at Final Battle in Hammerstein Ballroom specifically. That's a legendary arena. That's the same as Korakuen Hall, the Tokyo Dome, Arena Mexico, all these places. Even what Jacksonville Arena has become for AEW. That was a big goal of mine because I didn't get to compete in Jacksonville during the pandemic, but I think it was just this year actually I got to compete in the Rampage main event in Jacksonville, and that was my first match. So that was really cool. But now Hammerstein is another major goal that I'm hoping to cross off my bucket list and make the most of it.
And of course, your exhibit is in conjunction with the wrestling publication Orange Crush, where if people haven't seen it, it's such such a high quality work, such high quality work that we see that it's their first time participating in the fair also, but it's I think it's a natural progression here. What do you make of that publication and just we go back to artists like Jeff Hardy and then even Rob Schamberger who now works with you guys in art. How is it kind of to be a part of this kind of I don't know this little community within a community of artists within wrestling that are kind of we're seeing more and more of.
I think it's amazing because I think professional wrestling, art, music, all these things go hand in hand. You have very similar starts. Like you're out there grinding, you're traveling for little to no money to reach this next level of high quality in your performance and your work. And Orange Crush Magazine is such a high quality level of artwork. I have the magazines. I was featured in Volume 2. Adam had Andreas Hale interviewed me for the Volume 2 Orange Crush. And that's really how we got started talking more and more about the art. That's how he gave me the advice to paint bigger, so that I can fill up rooms, make bigger offers when it comes to selling these paintings. If that became a goal, so I think it's a huge deal that this art community is growing, and I think it's good for professional wrestling. I think it's good for art. I think it's good for the world because the creativity that is in professional wrestling can make the world such a more beautiful place, and we can express that through art. We can express that through Orange Crush's magazine and things like that.
Is there any talk of you doing some work with AEW when it comes to like you mentioned, your t-shirts, of course, where people can purchase t-shirts with is technically your artwork, but in a more traditional sense, as now the cat's out of the bag about your art in AEW, have they kind of reached out about more potential collaborations?
There's been some things we've talked about a little bit. AEW does a lot of things where they auction off pieces, and I think that's something I would like to do. They do the mystery box thing and stuff like that. So my goal is always to expand what I can do in the art world. I talked about getting into product design next year because I want to get into more than just designing t-shirts or clothing or prints. I want to design bottles. And I don't just mean printing on the bottle. I want to design how the bottle looks. I want to design how a shoe looks. AEW has a deal with Champs. They design these shoes and things like that. I want to expand my art as much as possible, and I know that AEW believes in me, and I hope to be able to help AEW expand more with my art talents.
Where do you set your goal for the exhibit? I mean, you just talked about some goals right there. What's kind of the end game? Do you want to open your own kind of studio? Like, what are your hopes when it comes to that thing? Everyone has, wrestlers have the goal of performing on the big stage or winning the world championship. What's the winning the world championship in the art world for you?
I honestly don't have an end goal when it comes to my art. My art has always been just let's see where this takes me. I Because it's such a free form thing for me. I don't necessarily have this is the end for me. This is the highest level. I'm just gonna keep going and see how far I can get.
Awesome. And lastly, just let people know how they can find you. I know, and then one more time, how people can actually attend this. Do they need tickets for this show? Can they just stop in? Like, talk a little bit about that when it comes to people who want to support you.
Yeah, you can find me at the Lee Moriarty on all social handles. And for the NADA event that is in Miami from December 3rd through December 7th at the Ice Palace Studios, you can get tickets online. And I believe you can get them in person, but it is better to get them online because they can sell out because this is a big show. There's artists from all over the world that are displaying at this event. And I believe it's over 100. So it's a big deal. And I'm very grateful to be able to be doing this as my first display of my art.
Yeah, and for people that don't understand, I mean, Miami, such a hotbed for art. I mean, we talk about Art Basel every year, brings in so many people from around the world. This event just is a huge deal for you to be making your debut. It's like the equivalent of you debuting at All In or something. Right? It's like, do you see
That's
that? Yeah. So I don't think people realize that this is such a huge deal, and it's amazing to kind of see. When you're a fan, you're like, this is one of our own doing this incredible thing. So definitely, everyone, if you're in the area, take advantage of this opportunity to kind of see this and open up your palette to other art too. Just don't, he mentioned over 100, artists as well doing hitting the grind. And if you're able to support him, definitely do that on social media and things like that, and buy t-shirts and kind of things like that. So bright future in the wrestling sense and in the art sense. So thank you so much, Lee, for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you a lot.